Besides our physical body, which you all know and see every day, there exists another more subtle nature in people, and you encounter it every day at every step, but you don't pay attention to it because we were raised that way. For example, if someone smiles at you, you somehow want to smile back. This happens not because we've developed a conditioned reflex, as scientists say. It's simply that the subtle energy body of one person pulls the subtle energy body of another person to smile. Because the subtle energy body comes out through the senses. The senses are thin threads of material energy. They are so thin that it is impossible to determine with the most accurate instrument. Because this is a material force, it's even more subtle than a ray of light, than these light quanta. Our subtle shells are even more subtle than light quanta. Therefore, if people try to somehow influence the subtle structures, for example, they try to influence the mind and our feelings with the help of some devices that emit ordinary electromagnetic waves. This is not really possible because our mind and intelligence have a more subtle nature. How to check this? If you find a person who can contact another person on the other side of the earth and determine their illnesses, diagnoses. This can be possible only for one reason, that they are in contact with this person. There is no other explanation. How is it possible to determine a person's diagnosis, to accurately determine where it hurts, when, what kind of character the person has, what they ate yesterday? How is it possible to determine? Only if you are in contact with the person. It's not reflected on the face in physiognomy. Physiognomy is a science. You can't determine what a person ate yesterday, right? What has changed there? Did one extra wrinkle appear? Nothing has changed, but it can be determined. It's very simple to do. I've done this many times already. Because thoughts penetrate through this earth, very simply without any problems, but electromagnetic waves do not penetrate. Thought has a very subtle nature, much more subtle than electromagnetic waves, and therefore you can't change a person's character using electromagnetic waves. It's impossible to do. But a person's character can be changed by the character of another person. If we communicate with a good person, our character becomes good. If we communicate with bad people, our character becomes bad. Therefore, the best device for healing is a person who is healthy themselves. That's why in Ayurveda it's believed that a doctor should be healthy. Therefore, they should follow certain rules of life, and that's why it's considered that a doctor should be a holy person. They should engage in spiritual practice and lead a pure lifestyle. A doctor who wants to heal other people, otherwise they will give others the same nature as they have themselves. Therefore, a good treatment result is possible if the doctor leads such a lifestyle. All this is connected with the concepts of intelligence. We discussed what intelligence is. It's such a subtle force that gives a person the ability to understand what is good and what is bad. It controls the mind, which has a coarser but still very subtle nature. This mind connects with all the objects that exist around us. If you remembered someone at this moment, then you undoubtedly contacted this person. If we simply remembered some person, we contacted them. This happens in such a way that our mind, with the help of the senses, always finds the object itself. That's why we quite really get upset. If we didn't find this person in space, we wouldn't really be upset. It would be like in a fairy tale. One rejoiced not quite so much and cried not quite so much when one remembered someone. But we quite seriously clench our fists sometimes when we remember someone. This happens because we are in contact with this person. And if we don't quite like them, there's just such a moment. Do you agree that contact happens? It happens immediately. Something happened, contact occurred. There are also feelings associated with the mind. There is an even coarser shell of human energy force. It depends on the state of a person's mind. The state of intelligence controls the function of the nervous and endocrine systems. Therefore, nerve impulses move through our body because there is a force that wants this moving. And eventually our body functions further, and our doctors only study this function. Therefore, all diseases mainly depend on the fact that a person's deepest and most subtle shells are not functioning properly. The most subtle nature is our spiritual nature. It means we are the soul. The soul is located in the heart area. It's about the size of an atom, but no one in this material world can measure it because it has a different nature. It's impossible to measure it because it has nothing to do with this material world. It's impossible to kill it. It's eternally alive, and it's impossible to chop it into pieces, burn it, tear it apart with a nuclear explosion. You can't do anything to it. Because it doesn't interact with these material energies in any way, but the soul is interested in being here. It's very small and it shines like the sun, but no one sees this radiance because it's covered by our body, and we don't have eyes to see it because you need to have spiritual vision. But this small soul spreads its enormous power of consciousness throughout our entire body. If you want to see the power of the soul, such a small one, look at how a person walks, how they smile and laugh. There are holy people who radiate light. Who has seen at least once a person who radiates light? There are very few such people, but someone has seen them. There are holy people. Do you know that Seraphim of Sarov radiated light? The power of the soul was visible through his body. He purified it, did not commit bad deeds that pollute the body and make a person sick. He purified his body, and therefore he radiated light. And when people looked at him, they were enveloped in extraordinary happiness. Happiness, the soul permeates the entire body with the power of consciousness. That's what you call consciousness. How is it visible in a person? By the sparkle in their eyes. That's exactly the power of the soul. It is determined by the sparkle in the eyes. Therefore, it's very easy for doctors to determine if a person is alive or not. You just need to open their eyes. That's what Ayurvedic doctors do. No need to check the pulse. If the eyes have faded, it means the soul has left the body, and the power of consciousness no longer fills the body, and there is no light in the eyes. Even if a person is in an unconscious state, the soul is still present inside, and the eyes sparkle a little. But if the soul has left, the eyes immediately become glassy, and that's it. The soul has left from there, and it will not return to this body anymore. The soul got tired of being there. We start to call out to it, crying, "Why did you leave me?" The soul then incarnates in another. It enters another mother's womb during conception, and a new cycle of life begins for each person. Nothing will happen to the body. It is just a piece of meat without a soul. It will simply die and rot. And since we identify ourselves with this piece of meat, we will cry near the grave and shout, "Vasenka, how is it for you to lie there, good or bad?" We think he's rotting there, but meanwhile he's already been born in a new body and is squeaking, laughing, and having fun somewhere. Because the soul never dies, but since we don't have real knowledge, we suffer because of this. We agonize because our beloved Vasya, with whom I lived for 50, 60 years together, left me. We think that he will live forever, but it turns out that nothing in this world is eternal. He's gone, we cry, and because of this, everyone gets sick. Everyone gets sick, mainly due to degradation. The body of intelligence is not developed enough to understand things as they are. This is where all diseases come from. We are going to study it now. This treatment is called treatment of intelligence. After this treatment, many of you will feel great relief right during these lectures. You will feel that it becomes easier to live, that's for sure. Who has already felt it? Raise your hand. Several people have already felt it.
The soul has gone to the heel.
It's a wrong expression. Because the soul never leaves the area of the heart where it is located, it can only leave the body completely. The soul exists there immovably, and today we are going to talk about this. There are life flows. Consciousness permeates the entire body and moves a person's vital air. Vital air does not consist of O2, it's not the air that we breathe. This is air that has a subtle nature. Why is it called air? Because it moves exactly like the air that we see. They called it air for convenience, although it's not the air we see, but something completely different. When we inhale air, air flows, subtle energy enters 7 places at once. 1, 2, 3, 4, it's inhaled into all. These are called chakras, zones. A person inhales vital air into all chakras when breathing in, and when we exhale, the vital air comes out of all the chakras. This is how we are nourished by energy coming from outside. A person who sets up for solar energy and feels the subtle energy of the sun is in pure goodness. They have a very good character. If a person sets up for the vital energy of other people and lives off this energy, it's important to them how other people think about them. They are in the mode of passion. Sometimes they are happy, sometimes they are sad. They are in passion, a person who tunes into the vital energy of the earth and lower beings that exist here. They are constantly in a state of depression, worrying that there's not enough food, that the dollar exchange rate is rising. They constantly think that the government is bad. They have heavy thoughts. They are in degradation. Such a person constantly suffers. Depending on what forces our vital air is set up for, we experience happiness or suffering. A person in pure goodness always experiences happiness, even if they don't have much food or clothes. They don't attach too much importance to this, because they have other pleasures. One person feels good when they have good clothes, while another person feels good when they understand everything that happens around them, when they wish happiness and joy to everyone. They are nourished by the power of happiness from within themselves. Such a person experiences joy, despite the fact that there are many problems around. They know that all the problems occur as a result of the fact that people, souls, are born in this place, and they are supposed to face these particular problems. This is all destined by fate. They think, what problems? Whether I worry or not, it will still happen here. In this place there is such a fate. In another place where a person is born is a different fate. Depending on where we are born, we get our destiny. Our destiny also depends on the place where we live. This cannot be changed. Nature designed it that way on purpose. Depending on our actions, we are born here or there. We try to change this place, but it's impossible to do it. Various planets influence in a certain way from all sides, and this influence adds up to a force. A person can't change anything, even if they try to change the place where they live or the people who live around them. They are also under the influence of certain planets from birth, so you cannot change it. This turns into a wild war which always ends in defeat. We see, no matter how we try to change our relatives and loved ones, everything remains as it was. True knowledge says that a person should find happiness within themselves. They should understand how to relate to things. A person who studies what things to pay attention to and where to get joy from is in the mode of goodness. A person who is attracted to temporary joys is in passion. They look for what's better and try to take more for themselves. A person who has become disillusioned with everything and simply spends the time of their life is in degradation. They constantly suffer, and that's it. I gave a brief description for those who came for the first time. Today we are going to talk about the vital air that moves within us. In Ayurveda, there is a concept of dosha. Dosha is what is disturbed, leads to disturbance, tends to be disturbed. There is healthy vital air. What's the point of studying it in medicine? If it's healthy, let it work. There is vital air that is suffering, diseased. The tendency of the vital air to be imbalanced, the amount of it, is called dosha. Vata dosha, imbalanced vital air in a person. Vata means air. Vata dosha means the tendency to have imbalanced air. Air in a person arises as a result of activity. When a person acts, does something, vital air moves. If they do nothing, vital air also moves, but inside. When they start doing something, this life air begins to connect with the life air of the environment. There are diseases of Vata dosha, diseases of vital air. There are 3 types of Ayurvedic constitutions. Vata dosha, related to air, Pitta dosha, related to a person's fire, and Kapha dosha, related to the energy of water and earth in a person's body. So there is a movement of vital air in our body. Ayurveda examines this movement in detail. People who have a Western mindset examine it. They examine it purely theoretically, while people who are inclined to study everything more deeply examine it practically. Now we are going to study it practically so that everything becomes clear, theoretically not interesting. Agree? There are 5 types of air in our body depending on the direction of movement. As a result of different directions, there are 5 main types of vital air in our body. Why do we need to know what types of vital air we have? Let them wander there, these airs. It is not interesting at all. Is it interesting? Let's see now. So there is prana. This is one of the 5 types of our vital air. In general, a person's vital air is called prana. Prana means vital energy. We are now examining not prana as a whole, but prana that is part of 5 different types of vital air in the body. This prana connects us with the outside world. This is the vital air that moves through our senses, connecting us with the objects of the senses. Our senses, like threads, connect us to something. We discussed in detail how this happens in previous lectures. We know that this happens due to prana. Prana does this. When we breathe, prana circulates in the body. If anyone has practiced breathing exercises, raise your hand. Has anyone practiced? Raise your hand. You see, they know that prana circulates during breathing. Prana or life air is something we inhale and exhale. Prana is the vital air that is connected to our senses. When we inhale, it doesn't just enter through the lungs, as we think. It enters through all the vital centers in the body and exits the same way. This life air is responsible for the human respiratory system. If someone's respiratory system suffers, it means their prana suffers. It means that their prana, their life energy, is disturbed. When someone is very tense, their activity is also very tense. They are constantly stubbornly striving to achieve their goals at any cost. If you look schematically at such a person, it is as if they are ramming their head against a wall instead of going through a door. They say, I won't change course, I'm going straight ahead. They have a pushy proletarian mindset, let's do it. They say, let's give coal to the country. and they push forward. Such persons, in their interactions with people and the world around them, use up their prana through constant collisions with other people and objects. They may collide with everyone and everything, and they may develop bronchial asthma as a result. Excessive assertiveness in their character leads to allergic diseases. Prana becomes depleted as a result of collisions, and the person becomes susceptible to the influence of various plants, animals, or even biological dust. Dust may come into contact with someone on its way and receive biological power. A person may develop an allergy to this charged dust as a result. This happens when there's a lack of humility inside. The lungs are responsible for a person's vital activity, for their life energy. If a person opposes their life force to other people, their lungs become affected. That is, they are against others. They resist others saying, "You're wrong and I'm right," if they are told, "Well, okay, I'm wrong." They start to dictate, "Since you're wrong, you will now do as I say, always, all your life. You will do as I tell you." This dictatorial character trait, I win, you lose, is common. We all have it. When we want to cooperate with someone, we look at the other person and think. We communicate with them politely and calmly, but as soon as someone begins to communicate humbly with us, we immediately start commanding them. This mentality causes a disturbance of prana in a person, and the person suffers greatly from this. The heart also suffers from this, because the heart is also connected with prana, with the vital air. That's why we feel joy in our hearts when we treat the people around us well. We feel sadness in our hearts when we treat the people around us badly, right? The heart suffers primarily because of how we treat others. It rarely suffers from overeating, which is in fact a consequence. When the heart is very weak, it may worsen from overeating, but the root cause is mainly anger and mistreatment of others. Everyone knows this. Nature designed it so that if we treat others badly, our most vital organ, the heart, suffers first. It is the most dangerous act in life, to treat other living beings badly and not to love others around us. So if someone has a heart condition, it means that nature has already given them the first serious warning. You need to treat others better, it says. Prana is responsible for mental functions. Prana governs mental functions. Therefore, a person who tries to resist everyone around them tires quickly. Their prana depletes fast, leading to fatigue. They say, "I have no energy at all. I work a little," and fatigue sets in. Where does this come from? It comes from not loving those around us, from getting angry, from disliking others or one's job. It's all the job's fault, right? You work like a donkey at this job, and the money doesn't increase. So the job is to blame for everything. As a result, the prana depletes. Let's use an example of two runners in a race. Both are running long distance. One runs with ease, whistling something to himself along the way. He's not attached to the result. He has been training for this run all this time. He runs well. He simply likes to run. He ran regularly. He's in good shape. He runs without straining, calmly. He runs easily. 1-2, 1-2, chirp, chick, chick. He runs calmly. Meanwhile, the second runner has already set a goal of winning first place. He runs, and his heart is pounding. He's afraid. What if I come in second? He runs, and his prana depletes. This happens because he's attached to the result. The first runner, on the other hand, doesn't deplete his prana. He just keeps running. When he nears the finish line, he still has energy. He overtakes the second runner at the very end. The second runner gets upset and has a heart attack. This is exactly how we function. When we want to earn more money, we become attached to the result, and our work becomes joyless. We work without joy. This depletes our prana. There's a saying, there's a sage, Chanakya Pandit. Pandit means a very wise person, a sage, and Chanakya was his name. He has aphorisms or sayings. These aphorisms are famous worldwide. There is no poverty for the hardworking. What does this mean? It means that a person should love their work, not the money that comes as a result of work. If we work only for money, then we just start to toil because we want to earn more money. And as a result, do you know what we get? There are finger positions called mudras. Do you know about these? If you fold your hands correctly, like this or like that, we will learn this too. You can cure many diseases. This finger means I, this finger means my will, and this one symbolizes my body, my inner self, my unconscious, my inner self. When we work like donkeys, we get a mudra, a combination of 3 fingers. I squeezes through the mind, through the will, between the unidentified, and comes out like this. This happens as a result of what is called woe from wit, directed in the wrong direction. Because when a person tries to make more money by working too hard, everything around them resists. In previous lectures, we spoke about the false ego which resists. There exists also a false ego of many people combined together. We don't know how this happens. When we focus on money and how to earn more, we don't make more money. We get a combination of 3 fingers, or if we succeed, it's with great difficulty. Therefore, there is no poverty for the hard-working. It means that when a person loves work, they infuse what they do with their prana. The product they create carries immense power, impacting those around them and filling everything with happiness. Gradually, this person gains respect. When a person is respected and has many friends, they understand how to live correctly because everyone gives them the right advice. They have good friends who know how to live correctly. Gradually, even if they have a very bad fate, they manage to come out well. Everyone is always ready to help them. They experience no poverty because they are hardworking, not money-loving. One should work simply to enjoy what they do for other people, and then there will be no poverty, says Chanakya Pandit. Most often a poor person is very greedy, you understand? And that's why it's a waste for them to even spend the energy to work. Therefore, such people most often do not work. They justify it by saying that they are very sick. Or they really begin to get very sick because in the past they used their body as a machine to earn more money. Or they did so not in this life, but in the previous. And that's why in this life they were already born weakened. Therefore, for the hard-working person, ultimately, there is no poverty. How can we become rich? It's very simple. We need to live for other people. We need to live for other people, work, and love work. What does it mean to love work? It means to love what you want to do for others. And then, when you do something for another person, the feeling coming from that person is transmitted. It happens instantly through the subtle energy of the mind. A pleasant feeling, and it means that everyone will want to contact you, treat you well. This pleasant feeling that will go through you will permeate your entire life, you understand? And therefore you will not have any problems. How much did you earn? A lot or a little? You will have a happy life. And for those who are not inclined to grab more than they should, there will always be enough money to live on. And for those who are not inclined to become disappointed. Because the one who gets disappointed is the one who tries to grab more than they should, but fails. You understand? They become disappointed and become poor. They think, I won't be able to earn a living, that's it. Or they get seriously ill, which is already due to fate. It happens due to fate that a person cannot work. They have gotten old. Therefore, we must understand that there is no poverty for the hard-working. Then our prana will not weaken and we can grow until old age, up to 100 years. Right? We can live to be 100 years old without getting old. How does a person grow up to 100 years? Who knows how a person grows up to 100 years? They grow. Yes. What power grows in them? The power of intelligence. Right? A person's power of intelligence grows up to 100 years, and therefore, when a person continues to grow until old age, look into their eyes. If the eyes are dull, it means they have stopped growing. It means they have lost their taste for life. And a person whose eyes shine with a bright light of joy in old age, this person is not living in vain. How to determine who will go to the lower planets, who will remain on Earth, and who will go to the higher ones? People will go to the higher planets if they are constantly happy in old age and need nothing, and whose eyes shine with a bright light of joy. And they will live in better conditions than we do. A person who remains in passion until old age, they are restless and want to do something more for themselves, although it's time to abandon all these attempts. For example, they build a new house for themselves at 80 years old, although they no longer need this house, right? Let the children build. Why do they need a new house if they are already 80 years old? Does they want to live until 150? Since the soul has an eternal nature, we never think that we might die tomorrow, right? This is simply our nature. We think, no, not me. Maybe he can, but I'm definitely going to live at least 5 more years, right? But no one knows when we will leave this body. This is unknown to anyone, so it's best not to look too far ahead, so as not to burden yourself with unnecessary problems. And that elderly person whose gaze has dimmed, who is downcast and drooping, will be born on the lower planets. If they are drooping, completely drooping, and there is no joy in their thoughts, if someone asks them about something, they just get angry and growl, right? You won't hear a kind word from them and their intelligence has dimmed. This means that this person will be born on the lower planets. This means that their prana has become very polluted as a result of such life. They need to cleanse it to rise higher again, therefore one has to suffer more. Through suffering, a person is purified, or through knowledge. There are two paths of purification. The first path is through knowledge. The second path is through suffering. Purification through knowledge brings happiness. At first, a person learns a little. When they learn, their heart aches. Right now, many of you feel an uncomfortable sensation in your heart. You feel, oh, I did that. Oh, I acted like that. The heart aches like this, but no one shows it. Everyone sits and no one shows it. That's it. I also think exactly the same. Oh, I did that too. This goes through knowledge. At first, it's a bit unpleasant, but then happiness comes and a person is freed from diseases. The second path, a person suffers until they understand that this should not be done. For example, let's say I swear at my wife until my heart starts to hurt, right? And when my heart starts to hurt, I open my mouth to scold her and I think, no, I'm not going to swear. Let her swear on her own. I feel sorry for my heart. Yes? And suddenly, we calmly walk away, right? When we wanted to say something but felt pain in our heart, and patients write me thank you letters. When you get results like this is called treatment in the mode of degradation. They write me thank you letters. They say, thank you, dear Dr. Torsunov. Now I can argue with my wife for 2 hours and my heart doesn't hurt. I think, wow, cured. Therefore, the most important treatment is explaining what is the right thing to do, isn't it? So I combine these two methods. So prana is responsible for mental functions. When a person treats others badly, their mental functions decrease and they gradually become stupid. When a person treats others well, their mind becomes enlightened and they become smart. This is the function of prana. Prana does this. It fills intelligence with power. So there is also udana. Udana is a very interesting energy. It always moves upward, always upward. Udana is the energy that moves upward. And what does it bring to a person? It brings enlightenment and happiness to a person. Udana moves upward when there is an opportunity. You understand? When we give such an opportunity, when we ourselves direct it upward, because everything in this world is arranged in such a way that if we don't move our energy upward ourselves, it won't move upward. Because there is a downward attraction of energy, just like the forces of gravity, all our energy is gradually pulled downward. And depending on where the energy moves, a person gets different results. If the energy moves upward, it fills the head with knowledge, right, or passion. Depending on the motives with which we raise energy upward, for example, a man studies sciences in order to become a professor. He wants to get a scientific degree or become a company director or become some kind of major scientist, a leader in society. He is driven by the desire to simply possess, to own some power, and such a person constantly studying raises their vital energy upward in the head. Let's say his stomach tells them, overeat and go to sleep. He says, no, I will study. I need to become a doctor of sciences, no matter what. This raises his energy upward in passion. When energy rises upward in passion, the person also becomes smart, but they cannot use this intelligence for its intended purpose. Because a person's mind and intelligence are intended only for attaining happiness. And all the knowledge that exists in this world is also intended for only one purpose, to acquire happiness. A person who cultivates their mind in order to gain some position in society, but at the same time does not understand that the most important thing is to be happy regardless of what position you are in. They become very intelligent but don't find happiness. So why do we need such intelligence that doesn't bring a person happiness? If you approach such a famous scientist and ask him, Professor Scientist, please tell me, are you happy? He will say, what silly questions you're asking me. Yes, someone is laughing. They recognize such a person. So there is another way to raise energy in order to find happiness. When a person engages in work they love, the work that is written for them by fate according to their nature. You know, there are 4 categories of people with different natures, and they all find happiness if they devote their lives to what is destined for them. We are going to talk about this now. The first category is people who are destined to become scientists and priests. It's the same thing. A real scientist is a saint. But do you know who a real scientist is? It's someone who doesn't sell their mind for any money. A real scientist is one whose mind is sold to absolute truth. Therefore, they rejoice because they know that nobody can buy them for anything, because the greatest happiness is not money, but knowledge. Such a person finds happiness, and a priest also attains truth through worship of God. It's the same thing, they achieve the same success. These people can be classified as a type of scientists. They are already born that way from childhood. How can we identify such people? They are not interested in anything except studying and learning. They delve deeply into books from early childhood, and they enjoy learning. But it's difficult to make them play or do something else. Such people strive for this, and they should have this opportunity. They will become happy and spiritually rich. If they follow this path, they will find complete happiness at the end of their lives. The next category of people are those who are inclined to be leaders and protectors. These people want to be officers, defend their homeland, or they want to be high-level managers. They want to lead something, to organize. Such children are inclined to command from early childhood. They have such qualities as kindness, generosity, and protection. It means despite the fact that they command, their commanding doesn't come from stubbornness, but from a desire to do everything properly, as it should be. Such children always know how to do things right, how to act. They protect everyone. They protect those who are right and punish those who are wrong. They are the ones who make up the punishment. They say, don't do that anymore because you're doing the wrong thing. This is the next category of children. They protect everyone. They are very generous and merciful. Order everywhere is their desire. They want order. They even command their parents. If parents do wrong, they say, you're doing wrong. You should do it this way. That's wrong. There won't be any order. Such children say things like this. They will be great leaders if you raise them right. They will achieve happiness in gaining fame and success. They will achieve happiness precisely in the fact that everyone will love and respect them for doing the right thing. One such person is enough for our entire earth. If this person possesses such strong qualities, one can become the ruler of the whole earth, and then the whole earth will bloom like a flowering garden. One such person is enough for the entire earth, and if any city has such a man, such a true ruler, he will never be bribed. Such a person is very generous. Their main desire to have something is just to use it for people. They are absolutely incorruptible. The true knowledge of a ruler lies in the fact that such a person is incorruptible and is very merciful and strict at the same time. If such a person is found and leads this city, then this city will bloom like a flowering garden. But this is almost impossible in our era because there are slightly different conditions here. We will analyze this with you. You should just know theoretically how this happens. It all depends on our fate. How we acted in our previous life, that's where we end up. The next class is people who are inclined to wealth and acquisition from early childhood. Such children love to exchange things. They are always trading, collecting something. Such children should study what business is, how to trade properly. They are very honest with others, that they don't deceive anyone in this trade. They don't engage in illegal business. They do everything according to the law. People with such qualities do it very carefully. At the end of their lives, they achieve success and they are absolutely happy because they didn't do anything bad to anyone. No one thinks badly of them. Such people only have friends and no enemies. They are real businessmen. And the fourth class is those who find joy in labor. Such people are inclined to craft, to making something from early childhood. They are not interested in studying some high disciplines. They don't want to bargain with anyone. They just want to make something, to craft, and you should teach such people some kind of craft. They will find happiness in doing much good. They will create something, make, build, and so on, and they will experience great happiness from this. Thus, we must understand that depending on where energy, prana, or vital energy accumulates most in a person, how high it goes up in a person by their nature, that's what kind of character and inclinations they will possess. But we all need to learn to direct this energy upwards, because a person whose energy doesn't rise up is not inclined to live long and is not inclined to be healthy. So there are two desires in our body, two main desires. The first is the desire to live, and the second desire is what? The desire to die. So we have two desires in our body. And it's very simple to determine whether we want to live here on this earth or die. If a person wants to live, they recover and achieve success in everything. If a person wants to die, they get sick and experience failure in everything. The desire to live is characterized by energy rising upwards, and it's called udana. It is the energy that gives us the power of life. When does a person want to live? When they don't want to be lazy, when they want to work with joy, it means that they want to live. Such a person will recover. That's why there's occupational therapy. You know, right? Treatment through work. Not when they're toiling, but treatment through work they love. And that's why we have physical exercise. But some even manage to overexert themselves even while exercising. They do 100 bends in the sweat thinking it will make them healthier. In fact, this is intended for when a person cannot work at their job due to a strong attachment to salary. Are there other reasons for not working properly at work? There are other reasons this happens when you treat co-workers badly, don't forgive the boss and everyone else. And when a person wants to work well, they do exercises with joy, and they recover from this. Imagine you can recover simply through doing physical exercise. For this, only one condition is necessary: approach it with love and joy. When you do, exercise becomes a source of recovery. The only force that truly heals is the power of happiness. Engaging in activities devoid of this joyful energy will not lead to health. Our bodies need happiness, our souls thrive on it. In this world, nothing else truly matters. We learn and strive for one ultimate goal: to be happy. There is no purpose in doing anything without joy. If you find yourself exercising without a sense of happiness, it's best to stop. It won't benefit you fully. This means you need to do something else that will bring happiness. When a person is lazy, they will never be healthy. How to determine what you're striving for, life or death? This is determined at the moment of awakening. If a person upon waking up wants to get out of bed with joy, it means they are moving towards life, they have a reason to live. If a person has a purpose in life, their energy rises upward. If there's no purpose in life, their energy goes downward. If a person has something to live for, they get up with the thought, the morning greets us with a smile. If instead you wake up and mentally repeat, tired toys are sleeping, bears are sleeping, and piglets are too, your energy sinks and you begin to age prematurely. A person who gets up early recovers and gains vigor. If someone feels sluggish in their body, there is one good ancient advice. If you feel that your blood pressure is low, there's heaviness in your forehead, you're constantly nauseous and have reduced appetite, if you're slouching and constantly hunching over, if there's no tinge of happiness in your thoughts, just spring out of bed. As soon as the morning starts to break, you need to spring out of bed immediately. Then vigor and inner strength will appear. A very simple advice. Many share their complaints. My head aches, I can't eat, nothing interests me. The solution is to get out of bed immediately. This is only possible if you have a zest for life. When does this zest fade? When your existence burdens those around you. There is no reason for anger toward others. If you poison the lives of your loved ones at home, you'll find yourself reluctant to rise. Thoughts creep in. Everyone annoys me like dogs, so I'll just stay under the covers. Or perhaps you think, let the iron saw work, and roll over. I won't go to work. I'll take a day off. Alternatively, you might think, it's Sunday, the day when lethargy resurrects in us. We can finally rest. We end up sleeping more than necessary. Then we awaken feeling sluggish. I'm so tired on Sunday because I worked all week. No, the fatigue comes from rising late. There is no justification for lingering in bed. The early bird catches the worm. Those who rise late often face misfortunes like strokes or heart attacks. Energy is not inclined to ascend. When a person gets up early, their udana, energy, tends to move upward. Morning embodies happiness. It symbolizes our youth. Living a day is akin to practicing for a lifetime. Morning represents childhood. The day encompasses youth, adolescence, and maturity. Evening signifies old age. How you live each day serves as a mini exam for your entire life. These small tests accumulate into one significant assessment. If a person squanders their evenings neglecting to enjoy life, they will face profound disappointment in old age. They are very dissatisfied with what happened. One should live their life so that it's not painfully regretful. We should start our day with joyful rising. This is the best practice that exists in Ayurveda for recovery. If a person wants to recover, they need to learn to get up early. If you say, I work too much to get up early, you will miss those precious morning hours that nourish your happiness. If a person doesn't feel the power of happiness in the morning, they won't experience it for the whole day. They tune into the power of happiness when they wake up early in the morning. All normal birds chirp at dawn, while the abnormal ones sleep only to hoot in the evening. There are two types of birds, larks and owls. Larks are always happy, owls are always unhappy. Those who want to be happy should chirp and get up early in the morning. That's what Ayurveda says. There's no reason to go to bed late, because from 10 to 12 in the evening, the nervous system rests. If a person hasn't gone to bed and fallen asleep by 10, their nervous system gradually becomes exhausted. Among you, there are many people who constantly feel an unusual heaviness in their head. There's no rest in life. There's no rest in life because you don't go to bed on time. The nervous system rests from 10 to 12, and there's no reason to go to bed later than 10. So Udana moves upward. When a person is disappointed in life, they want to die. When a person's affairs don't work out, when they don't work with joy, they just want to somehow satisfy their senses. The senses want happiness. Senses directed outward deplete a person's subtle energy body. A person wants to replenish it, sits at the table and overeats. When a person overeats, it's also a desire to die. They don't want to find happiness in life, but want to find happiness in stocking up on nutrients. What for? So they can lie in bed afterward. When they overstuff their stomachs, all energy from the head redirects for digestion. They say, I'm feeling a bit tired today, and sit down on the couch or lie down on the bed saying, I'm going to rest for an hour. If they have to go to work, they go like a sleepy cockroach, because the energy is all down in the belly. Have you seen how sleepy cockroaches walk? When they move their legs, they are braided, and then they bounce while they are walking. This is how we work after eating, after lunch. Because the head doesn't think clearly, all the energy has gone to the stomach. This is also a sign of a desire to pass away. When a person works without using their brain as a result of overeating, as a result of not having happiness in life. Next, the desire to pass away is when we don't want to forgive people and are angry at someone. This is also a sign of a desire to pass away. For example, I say, I can forgive anyone except this bad person. I will not forgive this one because he is so bad. I've already forgiven him 100 times. He is such a scoundrel. I've already forgiven him 100 times, and he remains such a scoundrel. If he remains such a scoundrel, it means you haven't forgiven him even once. After all, when you forgive at least once, he is already good for you. It's just that he was spoilt as a child, raised improperly. You can make excuses for why a person is not doing what they should be doing. You can just feel sorry for him. There are people who have a syndrome of tangled legs. They walk down the street and they get skidded. Some think that person is unfortunate, and others get angry, they hate. Where does this hatred come from? It comes from the fact that one had such a quality in this, or a past life, and then they overcame it in themselves, but it still remained somewhere inside. They were able to overcome it on the outside, but not yet within themselves. Such a person doesn't like, even hates drunk people. But what should be the attitude towards those who consume alcohol? These people are drinking away their minds. They're not drinking away their health. They can be healthy when they drink, but they're drinking away their minds. Because they don't want to have it, they're drinking away their intelligence. So the intelligence of such people gradually fades. We should feel sorry for them. Why do they do this? Because they lack happiness in life. There's only one reason why a person drinks: lack of joy. Therefore, when you create a warmer atmosphere for a person, they immediately stop drinking because they don't need to. They feel good without it. When there's enough happiness, you don't want to drink because you want to drink when there's not enough happiness. Therefore, it's impossible to cure a person of alcoholism through coding because they won't find happiness in the fact that they've been coded. Where's the happiness? The soul must be happy. It doesn't understand what it means to be unhappy, so it seeks happiness in at least something. That's why people drink. So, as energy rises upward, it fills a person's voice with strength. And when a person's energy goes down instead of up, their voice becomes dull and weak. When the voice is dull and the gaze is dull, this is also a sign that a person doesn't want to live. Energy doesn't rise up, but goes down. Therefore, we must learn to raise it up. We should fill our entire day with happiness. We should review what we do during the day. What are the thoughts we go to work with? Do you know how to love your job? One must find the benefit of it for other people and do it only with a sense of usefulness for other people, and then work will bring joy. The mere thought that it couldn't be of any use makes us sick, so all life passes joylessly because we are engaged in some aimless activity. But it's impossible that someone doesn't need what we do. Therefore, you have to find the usefulness and do it for that. Then you will feel extraordinary happiness inside. It will come from within. Happiness only comes from within. It never comes from outside. If we try to get happiness from someone, do we get it? For example, a man has become very rich and saved up a lot of money. He keeps servants, young girls hanging around him. Is he happy or not? Maybe he is happy. Why not? So many movies show this. They show such happiness. Do you know where a person's happiness comes from? Happiness, true happiness, is a very unusual thing. He may be just somehow satisfied, but he can't be truly happy. Why? Because true happiness only comes when we do something joyful for another person, because happiness only comes from within us. We have such a power called Paramatma, the Oversoul. It is itself in a state of happiness. When we do something useful for someone, because this is the purpose of our life, instantly our entire existence is filled with happiness. When we do something useful in our work, this is the real healing. After all, we work. We do something 6, 7, or 8 hours a day. If we start doing this with joy for someone, and how can you rejoice? Only if you understand that someone needs this. Then our existence is filled with happiness and you heal in this way. And if existence is not filled with happiness, no matter how many pills you take, we still won't be cured. Because the body is nourished only by the power of happiness. All organs live on this power. They are nourished by this power and are getting healthy. Who doesn't agree with this? Everyone knows if you stroke a person's heart with joy, it calms down. And so there are people who simply give away the power of their happiness and they call themselves super magicians. It's very simple. This is the energy that comes from us, and we are connected to all objects. You just move your hand near another person with the desire to make them feel good, and your hand movement is filled with the power of happiness. The other person says, it's working, it's affecting me. If this person is filled with the power of pride and says, I am so great, I can heal the energy field, I have a strong energy field, then they lose this power. And they already start to puff, strain, trying to heal with some other power, but not with the power of happiness. Then there will be no healing. So how to heal your loved one? If someone is seriously ill, don't run to him and shout, Oh, Vasenka. What happened to you? His heart sank into his boots. This might happen. All his vital energy will go to his heels. He will be scared. Therefore, how should we treat our children? We should do it with the power of joy. With the power of joy, despite the fact that the person is suffering, their vital energy goes down, and everyone around also feels bad, and fear arises. Why does a mother become frightened when her child is unwell? Because the child's vital energy goes down, and the mother's vital energy also goes down. How can a mother raise the child's vital energy and make them feel better? She should rise up and remain joyful, despite the fact that her child is unwell. That's what her support is all about. Therefore, when our close acquaintance dies, if someone comes and says, this person says, look, could you please leave me alone? I'm having a hard time. Come back some other day, and you try to stay away from this person. But when a person comes and says, remember how once we together, and rejoices, laughs, then the person says, come again. He gets strength from such people. So how should we help another person who is in trouble? We need to stop crying, being sad and being in despair. We need to understand that there's nothing bad, that the soul is eternal. Only when a person understands that the soul is eternal, they can be joyful and bring happiness to everyone. The soul should always be happy, and therefore there is no reason for grief, even if a person leaves us and passes away. In the evening, when there's a piece of meat in your stomach, what strength does it give to your head? Is there a chance that the meat came from a happy cow? From some happy pig that's in a state of complete happiness, right? Or not? Who has ever seen a pig that was happy when it was being slaughtered? It was smiling, grunting, and wagging its tail. That's what they show in cartoons. Let's imagine a pig lying in a restaurant, people approach it, cut off a piece to cook, and it's grunting happily, wagging its tail, right? That's how they show it in cartoons now, but in reality it doesn't grunt or wag its tail. It's very hard for the animal, so this power of suffering enters our stomach along with the pork. What kind of desire arises in us in the morning? Since the subtle energy goes from the stomach to the head all night, giving us this power, we have a desire to do nothing, to sleep, to lie down. Why does a person drink hot milk which is filled with the power of life? Milk is produced to give life to a calf or a human being. It's the way nature designed it. So the cow is considered the second mother of humans because it gives us vital energy, the energy that gives us life. If a person consumes protein from milk, they are filled with the subtle energy of life. It means they can consume not just milk but cottage cheese. But if a person drinks slightly sweetened hot milk at night, they gain the power of life for the next morning. You should drink a little, very little, half a cup, okay? It's difficult to digest. The milk stays in the stomach all night and gives the brain life force. That's why everyone knows that when you drink hot milk at night, everything relaxes and the cough goes away. The head becomes light, calm, and a person calms down and falls asleep. That's why even our doctors have such advice. You should drink hot milk at night if you have insomnia and it becomes easier to sleep, and you should do the same if you have a cough. Yes, hot milk with honey. You know such recipes, right? This is an ancient Ayurvedic recipe which says if a person drinks hot milk at night, they can develop the power of happiness. So, there is samana, this is the next energy. It balances all energies. Samana performs a peacemaking function. It is responsible for digesting food. Its activity depends on how much happiness we have inside. If a person is filled with happiness, if their activities are filled with happiness, then their digestion, samana, is very strong and their digestion is in joy. They digest and absorb everything very well, and then a person does not accumulate toxins or poisons in the body. They don't need to cleanse their body, because a person who is in joy has good digestion and never gets sick as a result of poor digestion. Their liver, stomach, pancreas, and intestines don't get sick, and they don't have constipation or diarrhea. Joyful people don't accumulate toxins in their body, because samana, the vital airflow, balances all vital flows. A joyful and happy person is balanced. Balanced means calm. A calm person has good digestion. A person who is anxious has poor digestion. Therefore, never sit down at the table in a bad mood. You should just relax and think about something good before eating, okay? If a person's thoughts are tied to happiness, they should simply say, "I wish happiness to everyone." Their mood will immediately improve. It's more difficult for a person whose thoughts are not tied to happiness but to something material. For example, they are attached to salary, to a car, or to a house they're building. Then they need to sit down and say, "I will finish building the house tomorrow." And the inner voice will say, "You won't finish it." It's hard for them. If they are attached to their salary, they say, "They will definitely give me my salary tomorrow," which they haven't given for 3 months. "They will definitely give me my salary tomorrow." You need to set yourself up before eating, right? So that there's joy in the stomach, so that everything is digested. Otherwise, you'll get sick. We have to set up somehow, you understand? But something is hindering us. Some attachment is hindering us. Our feelings are attached to something, so this causes anxiety. Who understood this from the previous lectures? Everyone understood that anxiety arises because feelings are attached to something. So if you feel anxiety inside yourself now, you should find what your feelings are attached to, what you want from life. Do you want your paycheck? Do you want your house finished? Or do you want something else? Know that you don't need to want any of this. It will come by itself. It will come as much as our destiny dictates. As many devout actions as we did in the past, so many benefits we will receive in this life. But a person is never born in this place if they don't have enough benefit to live this life. They are born where they have enough benefit to live this life. If they have very few devout actions, they are born on lower planets. And there, they will still exist as they are supposed to exist there. Therefore, there is no reason to think that you will not have enough to eat. Because we were already born here, we had enough devout actions to live here. Therefore, a person who worries that they won't have a piece of bread tomorrow is under an illusion. Because they already have everything. They did enough devout actions to have a piece of bread tomorrow. And who won't have a piece of bread tomorrow? The one who works without joy. At first they pull excessively much for themselves, and then others pull excessively much from them, and it turns out that they are being robbed. You understand? You know, it's like the law of a stretching rubber band. You stretch it towards yourself at first, but then you can't stretch it any further, and it flies away, and you're left with nothing at all. It seems that if you're stretching, at least something should remain, right? But it's all gone, all of it, without a trace. And how does this happen? We don't even notice, and then we're surprised. At first there was so much, and then there's nothing. Who has experienced this in life? Are there such people? Will someone raise their hand? Yes, there's one person. They pulled a little more, and suddenly there's nothing left. You see, this happens to everyone without exception. Therefore, we should just work with love without thinking about how much we will have for it. We will definitely have as much as we are meant to have, because there is no reason for us to be born here. We wouldn't be born, the soul wouldn't be born here, if we don't have enough benefits for the whole life. Do you understand or not? Who doesn't understand this topic now? Did everyone understand? I explained to you that a person who grabs too much may simply have nothing from birth. They want excessively much from birth. They don't use everything for creation, but use everything just to grab, and therefore nature protects itself from them. They pull towards themselves, and it resists the whole surrounding nature. It's very simple to understand. For example, you can experiment with your husband. When a husband brings home his salary, if you do something nice for him, he will tell you himself how much he earned and give you money. But if he comes home and you say to him, "Give me your salary, come on, give it," he will have a defensive reflex and he won't give it to you. This is how it all happens. You see, when a person pulls everything towards themselves, there's always a defense. When a person can't find a job, let's say an unemployed man can't find a job, He is strongly attached to the desire to find a job. He goes to a place where he wants to get a job and looks at the boss with his eyes wide open. He is very tense. He tries to pull it from the employer. Give me a job, he says, give me a job. And the manager naturally, like any person, has a desire inside. I won't give this job to him. I won't give it for anything. Such a person goes around and around and can't find a job. He becomes unemployed. But if he comes to the manager, he is just happy to see him and says without attachment, I would love to work for you. This is detachment. It's not imitation or pretense, because you can never fake it. A person should be like this. He simply wants to work with love. He says, I like doing what you do here. The manager says, we'll think about it and definitely find a place for you. Why? Because it sparks inside him, and the oversoul tells him from within, take this one. He will do everything well for you. He is such a good person. Priests receive health because they sacrifice their lives. They live holy lives. They don't do harm to anyone, and therefore one should serve them. They are sick because they did something bad in their past lives, but to help them they need treatment. Of course, it becomes easier for them to do what they are doing now, and they become happier and move faster towards their goal. Does your consciousness change because of my treatment? An envious person's consciousness will never change. An envious person's consciousness will never change. If someone envies the health of others, they will never have happiness. But why? So let's move on. There are the following energies that move in our body. This energy, samana, gives life fire to a person, and it gives it in such a way that it participates in the digestion of food. It's simply the vital air that is directed towards digesting our food. If a person can't digest food, then it's not absorbed. If a person can't absorb food, it means they don't get the joy coming from the stomach. When nothing is digesting, we sometimes feel disappointment, even if we have no external reasons to be disappointed. But digestion always depends on the strength of happiness coming to us from outside. It depends on prana, the energy coming from outside. Therefore, we should understand that a person should always be in a calm state, a state of happiness while eating. And if a person is in such a state, then they have good digestion, everything is absorbed fine, and then toxins don't accumulate in the body. Ayurveda believes that all diseases come from the fact that a person has accumulated many toxins in the body. There are poisons in the body. They can be on the subtle plane, poisons coming from bad thoughts, and there are poisons that are on the physical plane. They come from the fact that we lack fire, the power of happiness to digest food. Therefore, if someone has increased or decreased acidity, it's not because you're unlucky. Low acidity occurs from depression. And increased acidity occurs because a person receives bad fire as a result of bad actions. As a result of being angry, increased acidity occurs as a result of a person being angry, behaving badly, very irritable inside. Then their acidity increases due to the improper functioning of fire in the body. And this is also related to samana. It means there is no balance inside. Nothing balances the person. And therefore they digest food poorly. What is samana? Samana is what balances. This is related to digestion. Because if a person is unbalanced, they will never digest food properly. And they will get sick from toxins that will accumulate. Low acidity occurs due to depression and lack of joy in life, or from fatigue. All this occurs due to these reasons. There is also vyana. If a person has a lot of vyana, they always say, let's live friendly. Vyana is responsible for this function. You know these cartoons. There, Leopold the cat had a lot of vyana, and he said, let's live friendly. And this means that he never had internal organ dysfunction or functional disorders. When there's one acidity in the stomach, there's a dysfunction of the bile ducts and heart rhythm disturbance. One type of acidity doesn't harmonize with another. Hydrochloric acid doesn't harmonize with protein acidity. Then erosive gastritis occurs, which causes problems. Erosions appear on the surface of the stomach. This happens because the person doesn't have friendship with those around them. They're looking for criminals around them. All the time it seems to them that someone is bad. This comes from envy. When a person is envious, this happens. Therefore, we should try to treat each other kindly, and then we won't have dysfunction of our internal organs. Everything will circulate normally in us, and different functions of our organs will interact normally. Muscles will control the body properly, kidneys won't drop, therefore we should simply try to cooperate with each other. Then this energy that unites all the forces in our body will work properly. It's called vyana. Where is it localized? In the human heart. Because the heart contains kindness or anger, love or envy for other living beings. There is always a lot of envy in the heart, but we must learn to stop envying each other. Someone gets a higher salary, someone gets a lower salary, someone lives more poorly, someone less poorly. But we shouldn't envy each other, and then everything will function normally. Then the heart rhythm won't be disturbed. Do you know the secret? Generous people don't envy. One needs to be generous, then there will be no envy. When will a person be generous? When they give the most important thing, happiness, to another person. A person's generosity can be determined by how much happiness they can give. If a person can't give happiness, then they lose their generosity. And if they lose generosity, then envy is laid in the heart. And when it's laid in the heart, life becomes very difficult. Everyone around irritates me. It seems that everyone is bad, that there's some kind of catch. The joints that connect all parts of the body to each other, the spine, are also affected. Due to Vyana not functioning properly, the hematopoietic system also suffers. This means that a person who feels despair towards others perceives life and the situation they are in with despair. They think that everyone around them is to blame for their misfortune in life. In this case, a person's joints and spine, which keeps them in a state of living, suffer. So joints allow a person to move, act and live. When a person is disappointed in everything, they don't like anything around them. Everything is bad, everything's unfair, they don't want to look at it, they wish their eyes couldn't see anything. Such a person's joints and spine begin to deteriorate. This happens because Vyana, the force of unification, is being destroyed. And the person doesn't want to communicate with anyone, they become irritable, they're not interested in anyone, and they have fewer friends. All this happens due to the destruction of this force, Vyana. It is destroyed as a result of a person not wanting to live amicably, and this arises from a lack of generosity. Therefore, since ancient times, there has been a custom that a person must always offer someone a little bit to eat when preparing food. If there are no people around, at least put some food out for the birds so they can eat together with them. This way, generosity is cultivated. When a person cultivates generosity, they begin to treat people around them well, and thus all functions in their body work properly. Vyana is cultivated through generosity. Therefore, a generous person has no enemies because they don't envy anyone. There is also a type of energy called Apana. This is energy that moves downward. Apana is quite a dangerous thing because it brings us closer to death. Apana, which moves downward, is responsible for a person's excretory functions, reproductive functions, and various hormonal organs located in the lower part of the body. Apana is also responsible for the functioning of our intestines and bladder. There are two types of wrong attitudes towards this energy. When a person wants to receive the main joys in life through the energy that goes downward, through sex, through some other things that release energy, this is laziness, excessive sleep, and gluttony, which lowers energy downward. When a person sets themselves up for these things, all their life force comes out through Apana, which moves downward. So they give away all their life force because all the energy goes down, and then they have less intelligence. Because just like a fountain that shoots upwards, it also has small branches at the bottom. And sometimes the jet shoots up very high, and then the small branches are left without water. Sometimes the jet that shoots upwards weakens, and the side branches begin to intensify their activity. Therefore, a person who is only interested in the 4 animal instincts is born as an animal in the next life, not as a human, and their energy always goes downward. What are these 4 animal instincts? Sex, food, sleep, and the struggle for existence. If we are only interested in these 4 things, then we are born as an animal in the next life, because animals are only interested in these things. They are not interested in anything else, only in where to eat, the struggle for survival, sleep, and sex. Nothing else interests them. Therefore, when a person raises their energy upward, they want to be happy. Their fountain goes to the head. It means the person fills the head with the power of intelligence. Such a person finds happiness in this life and ascends to higher planets in the next life. They are already born on higher planets in the next life. Therefore, we have no reason to grieve and be in despair. We need to raise our energy upward. The one who rejoices raises energy upward. When someone learns something bad about themselves, there are 2 ways to react. The first way is to get upset. The second way is to set up for optimism. A person who sets themselves up for optimism is worthy of human birth or birth on higher planets. A person who sets themselves up for pessimism loses everything. Therefore, there is no reason to be pessimistic. Even if our whole life has passed aimlessly, you should know that we live eternally. What a person lays down in their life now, they will receive the same in the future. Therefore, a person can lay down something good for themselves on the very last day of their life, and in the next life, they will receive it. Why do people who have power grab everything in this life and they get away with it? Good question. You should know that past lives exist, and a person is meant to have a certain amount of wealth. Wealth is an opportunity to make everyone happy or to make oneself unhappy, depending on how you use this wealth. If a person has a lot of means and uses it to make everyone else happy, then everyone around them prospers, and they receive happiness both in this life and in the next. If a person uses their pious fate accumulated in the past life only to be greedy and grab for themselves, they will lose everything in the next life and will be born miserable and sick. Therefore, do not envy those who grab everything for themselves. They will not get a good result from this. So this question is a bit imbued with envy. Please don't be envious. Don't think that it's easier for them to live. I have treated quite a lot of people who have a lot of money, and I asked them all, "Are you living well?" And they didn't tell me that they are very happy. I'm sure there are no such people. Those who don't use their means for their intended purpose, who don't bring joy to people, they won't have happiness because everyone around will envy them. Imagine if you envy a country's leader, one person and millions envy him. What kind of happiness will that be? Thought has a subtle nature. It contacts this person when you think about them. What kind of happiness will there be? They will be in a state of grief or in a state of very strong dissatisfaction inside, and then everyone will suffer from this. Therefore, there is no reason to think badly about a country's leader. If you do this, the ruler is filled with bad energy, bad power, and we all suffer from this in the end. Do you see how many aspects I'm revealing? How should people behave? What to think? How to properly direct thoughts to change their life for the better? For this, we need to direct our thoughts in such a way that we can study our nature, why we were born on this earth, why we live here, what is the purpose of our life. When we understand that we live for happiness, to bring joy to others, we will have a desire to do something good for everyone, and then it will become easier for everyone around us to live, and for us especially. We will feel very good, and those around us will feel much better. This is how you can change life around you, but no one can change life in this country, because this country has a certain fate. It will be carried out. But if all people together begin to engage in self-awareness and understand why they live here, what they need from this life, then everyone will be happy despite the bad events in the country. There is no reason for us not to do this, because we cannot get rid of the bad events that have already happened in the past. After all, we have accumulated some deeds in the past, and we are born here to fight them. If someone doesn't believe in this, it means they don't believe in justice. Then there is no point in being born on this earth at all. If everything is unfair, why live here? What happiness will come from everything being unfair? How one should behave? So we've read that. Did I answer this question? Can prayers help a suicide person? Yes, they can. A suicide person is not reborn until they have exhausted this life. That means they have a kind of wheel of life. They have a certain orbit of their life, and they must go through it. Whether in the subtle energy body or physical body, when a person kills themselves, they are not born in a new body, but remain here on this planet as a ghost. You can help them very easily. It's enough just to wish happiness for this person, or even better, think about God while remembering them. Therefore, the person is cleansed, and even if they remain in such a form in the subtle energy body, they are in a state of happiness. You understand? But there are even cases when such a person receives God's mercy and is born ahead of time. They may even be born on higher planets. All this is possible. Is it possible to get rid of gallstones and kidney stones? Yes, it is. It's very simple, by the way. It's quite easy to treat this. You need to stop eating in the evenings. You need to stop eating meat, fish, and eggs, because they disrupt metabolism. And you should stop eating flour products after 2 p.m. You should eat nuts, various stewed vegetables, and dairy products after 2 p.m. And then stones will no longer reappear. There are several herbs that dissolve stones. These are calamus root, hogweed root, and coriander. These herbs dissolve various types of stones. What literature can you recommend to gain knowledge in the field of Vedic sciences? You know, there are books by Srila Prabhupada. This is a person who came to America and began to preach spiritual knowledge to people who were using drugs. And many of them became saints afterwards. This is such a phenomenal act. He was appreciated by the whole world after that. He wrote many books on Vedic knowledge. They are quite complex. What you are going to study now will give you the opportunity to study them later. That means that this knowledge will give you the opportunity to read all this. It won't be difficult for you. Regarding Ayurveda, everything that is being translated now has a purely superficial level. It's set up for the Western structure of society, which is not interested in deep things, but mainly in various techniques. Therefore, there are Ayurvedic techniques where you just give a pill and that's it, and you don't care about the deep nature of a person's illness. Well, such literature will also appear soon, no doubt. This is a pretty good book. He still somehow sets people up for something good, but doesn't analyze everything very deeply. Well, at least he talked about what Ayurveda is, and that's good. I don't mean anyone in particular. What causes mental illnesses, particularly schizophrenia, and can you cure it? Schizophrenia can be cured with stones only if one wants to be treated. Despite the fact that one is mentally ill, if a mentally ill person doesn't want to be cured, then no one will be able to cure them. Mental illnesses arise because a person doesn't want to live in this society. They develop an internal protest, they withdraw from external life, and they use some kind of eternal life, and most often they suffer very much from this. After this life, they very often end up on lower planets. Therefore, a person who was born to live should live, not escape from life. So if someone has a desire to escape from life, they may develop some mental illness. One should try to be active in relation to their fate. Escaping from your life means that you are not interested in what's happening to you. Is this the last note? Does sexual energy transform into creative energy? Does sex interfere with creativity and spiritual development? Sexual energy is the energy of love and happiness of the soul. The biggest attachment in this world is the attachment to enjoying this energy of love and happiness. This energy can rise upwards, and then love and happiness fill the head. In this case, it never ends. It always remains inside a person, and the person remains happy for life. Or this energy can go down, and then it's spent and becomes less and less. A person can direct this energy either into creativity, or they can direct it towards having sex. It's their personal choice how they proceed, but the result will be different. Does sex interfere with creativity and spiritual development if a person does it for conceiving children and they do it right? There is a method in Vedic knowledge that allows conceiving genius children. It's possible. We will talk about this. Therefore, it doesn't interfere with creativity. A person who has done everything right will undoubtedly receive happiness from this. From their children, through their children. A genius child can even pull a person out of the lower planets. A genius child can even send all their relatives to the spiritual world altogether. They can simply lead them out of this universe. Therefore, this is a divine power. In general, we need to understand that we should always strive to live a full, happy life. And all that energy that goes down is very difficult to control. It always creates some problems. That's why some people engage in infidelity, debauchery, and so on. This is terrible. This leads to very bad consequences, both in this life and in the next one. We don't choose what to read, because there is authoritative knowledge and non-authoritative knowledge. A reasonable person will always read only what has been confirmed by time. Read the Vedic literature directly, not what derives from it, and you will get real knowledge. When a person comes to me and says with a bit of pathos, I have to live 7 lives and I'm already living my 5th, I say, and what will happen to you then? He says, nothing, that's it, I'll finish my life. I say, do you like such a prospect? He says, what can I do? They told me that there are only 7 lives according to the horoscope. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.